welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to my adventures in pugging Mythic Plus. Today we are going to do another Protection Paladin commentary. You can see my talents there on screen. This was actually a pretty good 12 Cinderbrew. I feel like this key has been historically for me pretty difficult to time. And so I figured it would be better just to kind of go over things that I'm thinking about. This isn't a perfect run by any means, nor are they ever, but this one definitely goes pretty well. So right off the rip here, we're popping Wings, we're popping Divine Toll, we're making sure to get these kicks on the Pyromaniac, and we do actually lose our Evoker there, but luckily or we lose someone there. I'm not really sure who. I think it was our someone. But anyway, our Evoker and our Unholy Death Knight are absolutely blasting, so this pull goes down without too much difficulty. I like to commit pretty much every defensive cooldown in the book and just kind of rotate through them on that pull, especially because these hired muscles hit like absolute freight trains. And there's a lot of other stuff going on. So any pressure that you can take off of the healer to make sure that you're not dying is definitely something you want to keep in mind. As you saw, I popped Lay on Hands right off the rip. You could also like Pot or something like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to grab these two patrons and the Pyromaniac. There's only going to be one kick in this pull, and the Pyromaniac is pretty easy to deal with. And then the patrons won't do too much. They'll just throw the mean mugs around, but not too much that we have to worry about. We don't want to pull any muscles or anything like that with Chewy, just because Chewy buffs his nearby allies and makes sure that they cannot be hard CC'd. So they can still be kicked, they just can't be hard CC'd. So we'll try and make Chewy a little bit more efficient, though, because on higher keys, he does have a pretty high health pool. So we want to make sure that we don't just hit one target for about 3 minutes there, because that's a big waste of time. We lose our Druid there as well, so we've already cost ourselves about 30 seconds as far as deaths are concerned, but we actually end up timing this with a good amount of time left over, too. So as you can see, we're going to pull Chewy back towards the door, make sure that these mobs walk in a straight line over to the side here. We're going to do the same thing, but pull 3 patrons and a Pyromaniac, and should be able to do the same thing that we did the previous pull, making sure not to step too far over to the right-hand side there to get more of the patrons and that muscle, which I think someone does, or it's like a pet pull or something like that. But this is what you don't really want to do. We have a good enough damage where I think this is probably going to be fine, and we just have to make sure that we survive it. But yeah, I popped Blessing of Spell Warding on the Shaman there just to try and make sure that someone's not taking any damage. I actually overlap Sack with it as well. But as soon as Cookie dies, then we can get the rest of this room over here and go about our day. So, and these pulls are going to get a little bit easier. That first pull, if you die on that, it's just kind of like a bricked key. But the rest of the pulls in this dungeon, I think, are sometimes easier depending on how you do them. We got to kick this Boiling Flames. That's really the only thing that you want to be kicking. Everything else is kind of unavoidable. Just make sure that you're popping your defensives appropriately and just be an absolute live lord on this pull. Recently, I guess I said it in the last video as well, the last Protection Paladin video, but I've bound my 3 main Holy Power spending abilities to my Shield of the Righteousness, just so that you can be spamming any one of those and it will pop Shield of the Righteousness when you get the procs. So that has actually dramatically helped me not being able to have my fingers on different buttons and all that sort of stuff. So if that's something that you want to try out, it's actually kind of helped a lot. I'm not sure if you're really supposed to do that, but it has helped me a ton as far as keeping uptime on Shield of the Righteousness and being able to press multiple buttons at the same time. So we'll go into Al Dryer here, and he is just going to do his normal thing. He's going to do that brew breath. Just make sure you're not sitting in front of that. And we're going to try and hug this left side of the wall here, dragging him down the left side, just to make sure that all of the brew does not go anywhere that we need it to go. And luckily we have cleared this entire side. We've killed even that pack in the back left corner that some people choose to skip. So we have plenty of space. We can even use the space behind these patrons if we need it. So baiting the throw Cinderbrew is actually kind of good too. So we get a nice little 3 puddle stack there, and then we'll get him to 66% and he will start running over. So I like to position myself just where a brew is going to be so that everyone can kind of take up their stances and just televise which brew that they're going to get. We get a nice triple feed right off the rip. One more should do it. And we'll bring him out of happy hour, and then we'll go over to the right-hand side here. Everyone is usually on the left-hand side, or majority of the people are on the left side. So we are going to go over to the right and make sure that those swirlies that are going to fall around in the middle have a bit of a longer path to get to us. So again, we'll do the same thing for the right hand side. We'll drag the boss pretty close to the wall here. It doesn't need to be perfect, but want to make sure that we are not dropping those puddles in the middle of the room, because that is the main avenue people are going to use to deliver the brews. If you're standing out in the middle of the room too, make sure that you're not, because these pools, as you can see, they are following people, so we can get these nice and stacked and dramatically reduce the area that those are covering. So we get him down to 33%. He'll go into his second happy hour phase, and we will once again position ourselves next to this brew, grab it, pop horse, and there we go. Especially with Paladin, just make sure that you have a horse for each of those, and you should be chilling. And then we will go to the left-hand side here, because those swirlies are still kind of in the middle of the room. And they are going to get baited to my right-hand side there, so I don't really want to move down the wall in the same way that I did the first time. So I think I end up moving back behind the bar in this case. I'm like, okay, the breath is going that way too. Yeah, absolutely not. We are going to do a bigger move behind the bar, and then we'll get these swirlies to chase us back over here, which seems like a much better way. We have this whole left side of the room, or right hand side of the room, whichever you want to call it. We have this whole side of the room to play with, and now these swirlies are nice and stacked up. We don't have to worry about keeping anything clear. We can use all the room as much as we want. So we'll take out Al Dryer, and we'll go into the next pull. I will say that we actually overpull this dungeon. I think we end up being at like 105, 106% count. So definitely not the best route. I pull a couple things that we don't really need to pull. But yeah, just make sure that, I mean, we still time it with a pretty good amount of time on the clock. So I think that's always been the issue for me with this key. There's just so much damage to be done and so many mobs, and it just feels like it's kind of a drag sometimes, especially if you don't have high DPS. So making sure to cut out any mobs that you don't need to kill, or at least make sure that you're cleaving if you overpull, is very, very important in this key. More than in other keys, I would say. So here are the priority kicks are from the Flavor Scientist, just making sure that that rejuvenating honey doesn't go out. That can really, really extend the duration that you have to deal with these hobgoblins. So if the taste tester cast goes off, like, it is what it is, but make sure that rejuvenating honey doesn't go off, because that can extend the time of this key by a ton. But we'll take out the rest of the pull. We'll get the Reckless Delivery, and unfortunately we want to skip this next pack, so I'm not going to pull this Hobgoblin over to it. We end up pulling it anyway, spoilers, but, you know, that's okay. So we'll finish off this Hobgoblin, keeping in mind that when they die, they will spawn all these brew drops. So in this first pull, you definitely want to be cleaving off the Hobgoblin so that these brew drops spawn, and you can get rid of these with the rest of the pull. So you don't have to be in a situation like this where you're just killing brew drops, nothing else, waiting for the skip to happen, and going from there. I didn't want to social aggro these brew drops on the pack that we're looking to skip, so you can actually skip this, I think, without a Mind Soothe. As you can see, I go here on hop on top of this thing, hop right over. I don't pull, someone else does. So it is possible, can be done. But I don't want to, since we pull this, I don't want to give people too many kicks, especially because there's two Flavor Scientists in this pull, and the Flavor Scientists are the ones that we've established earlier do the rejuvenating honey. So keeping in mind that those guys are going to be responsible for a lot of your kicks, you don't want to get too many of those in the pack. So I get these two Hobgoblins, the two Flavor Scientists, and that is enough for now, at least until these Flavor Scientists die. I believe I do chain into the pull behind me, and I do think I also used my cooldowns pretty well this dungeon. I know a lot of people, especially in lower Mythic Plus keys, will sit on their cooldowns for a long, long time. Me as Prop Paladin, I've decided to just kind of blow wings, and I used to wait until like Wings Toll was available and use both of those together. I know it does a ton of damage, but especially when it comes to survivability and just having uptime on Wings, that's all damage that you're effectively missing out on sometimes. So this key, I just send Wings, I send Toll separately. They're both going to do a ton of damage. I don't really need them for survivability in this key. Surprisingly, I feel much, much more durable than I did last week, so I just decide to send them on CD pretty much because we need the damage. And like I said before, this key is going to be one that you just need to absolutely blast. So I get the brew drops, make sure that I have threat on all of them, and then I get this nice little triple pull, and I just pull. I always pull back out in this hallway. You don't really need to do this, but I think it cleans up the pull a ton. I pop wings here, just go absolutely crazy with the damage. And we get everything nice and stacked, making sure to interrupt those flavor scientists, getting stops where we can. We'll drop blind. And as you can see, our group is just doing a ton of damage, so these pulls should go down pretty quickly. We let one rejuvenating honey go off, but I should be able to out DPS that pretty well. And when these pulls are nice and stacked up in this corner, it just feels fantastic. You guys can just chill. And as you can see, there's not even a whole lot of raid damage going out because we have some good stops. I ping that I'm going to come around the corner again. So usually you don't want to do double hobgoblin here, but you know, it is what it is. And I probably should have done that pull on the right-hand side just to make sure that the boss could spawn. All that RP is triggered earlier as soon as you kill that pack like that's inside the room over here. But it is a-okay. We'll get everything nice and stacked up and basically do the same thing again. I drop sack on the healer as well to make sure that if anything, a rogue goes out, especially with that guaranteed hobgoblin AoE, that the healer is going to stay a bit safer. And this healer is an absolute trooper as well. Good job at keeping people up. I don't feel like I'm in danger. I feel like I'm getting a good amount of healing, which sometimes I don't feel like from a lot of healers. So I get to feel like I can be a little bit more offensive with my gameplay here. And we'll get Reckless Delivery, send this towards the wall. And then we'll just deal with these hobgoblins. Don't really want to chain these into anything else. Just deal with these guys. The professional routes, you want to pull as few of these as you possibly can. But for pug routes, you just got to expect to kill a few of these guys. It is what it is. So we'll just take these guys out. They're pretty boring, but just make sure you send the Reckless Deliveries to the wall so you don't lose too much uptime on cleave, especially if you're a lot of melee DPS. And then again, as soon as these guys die, we will get all these brew drops here. Drop Toll to try and get some threat on them. And there we go. See that I have threat, so now I can feel free to run into the room. And then I ping that I'm actually going into the room, not coming back around the corner. So we'll gather all this up. I drop kind of low here, but I haven't had to use too many defensives this key except for the first pull. Haven't had to be too stingy with them or too liberal with them. So there we go. We'll just get this last gather. We'll get one more pull. And yeah, and this will be the second boss triggering here in a second. So yeah, just making sure that we kill these explosive batch, these totems. They do get cleaved down pretty easily, but making sure that those don't go off because those will wipe you. Kicking the flavor scientists and everything else will just kind of fall by the wayside. We kill the last pack in this right-hand side pull, so the boss spawns even before the last trash pack dies. And you can actually control these spawns. A lot of people don't realize that you can control the spawns of the little goop here. So I'll try and showcase in this video. This is not going to be some like scientific or anything like that, but I like to imagine it as like a triangle. You are one part of the triangle, as you can see. So the brews kind of spawn in a triangle formation. So I like to have them all spawn, and then the DK grips them in, and then we hug this little wall right here so that they're all funneling down the side of this wall, and the pools get roughly dropped at the same angle. And then once those die, we're going to be looking to move the boss just a little bit into the middle of the room here, and then we're going to angle him, making sure that we are one point of the triangle, and the boss is like back right or back left hitbox, whatever you want to call it, is facing where those other brews died. So it might be a little bit misangled here, but we'll do Sprouting Stout, and there should be a goop that spawns with those other three. We'll see if we did it correctly. So yeah, as you can see, there's another group that spawns with the other three, so we immediately have 4 of them stacked, and then we will go over here, make sure the angle is tight so that all of the brews are able to drop in the same corner. And then we'll try and do the same thing. We get knocked back again here, but we'll move him back over here towards the middle of the room, and then we will once again make sure that we are facing one direction, and the back sort of corner, we're making a little triangle, as you can see here. So trying to make sure that over here is where we want the brew to spawn. So we will once again get into the sprouting stout, and those puddles will form into brew drops. We'll get sprouting stout here, and we should get another brew drop spawning right on top of the two that just spawned there. So as you can see, boom, we get the spawn, and I don't really know where to go here. I think I decide to go across the room, but having an extra brew drop stacked can make a huge difference in this fight. It's just provides so much extra cleave that you ordinarily wouldn't have. So if you're able to order one of these or control the spawns to even a little bit, you're going to be sitting in a much better spot. I try and keep IPA pretty close. I know I have my Hand of Justice, so we can make sure that if they get too close, we just stun the brew drops. Just want to make sure that the DK doesn't have to run an eternity to get back in range of the boss. Again, we'll angle the boss. The sprouting stout will come out, and we should get a brew drop that spawns right on top of this other one. There we go. And we'll get in a bit of a sticky situation here, but as you can see, the hitbox is pretty lenient on IPA. So we'll get all of them to spawn, and then again, start getting them to funnel over into the back corner there. But we just kill the boss. Easy clap. So I think that went pretty well. That was one of the better times that I've had doing IPA. And obviously our DPS are pumping. Everyone's doing their job. But you can do a lot as a tank to mess around with that fight. So keep that in mind. So we're going to pop wings, toll, absolutely everything here, and drag everything on top of the Bee Wrangler, because the Bee Wrangler is the thing that's going to be the hardest to move in this situation. So making sure to interrupt the Honey Volley from the Purveyor. Everything else will really just be focused on the tanks, and it's just unavoidable raid damage. So we'll dodge the Beeswax. I actually bubble and stand into it because I see that the worker bees are on pretty low health, and so I'm going to be able to soak a couple final stings with that bubble as well. Those final stings will actually like one-shot you as a tank, so if you get bricked in this this hallway and you have no idea why and it's like happening to you, that is probably why. These final stings do a ton of damage, so if you have an immunity or something like that as those worker bees are casting that, I just like to expend it. There's really nothing else that you need to worry about as a tank in this hallway, so just go ahead and send bubble. Like, screw it, it's not gonna really change anything, and you'll guarantee that you don't die. So we'll get the worker bees, try and line of sight this Bee Wrangler around this corner, and then we'll chain pull into this honey harvester over here. You want to make sure that you don't get too many stacks of that debuff that I have, that little honey pile debuff. That can be pretty problematic. So Swarming Surprise, it puts a 30-second debuff on you that increases the damage that you take from subsequent ones. So definitely make sure that you are not pulling multiple honey harvesters, or if you're going to pull them, don't chain pull them in a way where you're getting multiple casts of that going off and stacking that up too high, especially in pug groups where people are not coordinated and not using their personals and stuff like that. That can be pretty bad. So again, we'll get this next pull. We will chain pull the honey harvester into the Purveyor and the Bee Wrangler, and making sure that we're dragging things onto the Bee Wrangler because they don't move quite as easily. Yeah, we'll get the Beezookas and, let those go off. You can outrange those as well, so if you are a ranged DPS, if you just stand max range against the Bee Wranglers, those things only have a 30-yard range or just under a 30-yard range, so if you're standing at 30 yards, you will not get hit by it. So if you're ranged, go ahead and just do that. You just mitigate a half health hit, and it's pretty free. So we'll get all these worker bees. I don't like to do these with the 4. You could always just chain pull these into the pull that we just did, but I just want to get these down. Nothing too crazy. We'll get all the non-elites so it's a little bit less confusing. We still have to wait for the pat, so we'll just finish off these worker bees and get some interrupts on these final stings and that sort of thing. So I'm just kind of looking around waiting for the pat. As you can see, I got like half tapped by those, but I like to wait for the Bee Wranglers to almost be stacked up before I pull, just because it saves me some time and I don't have to move them as much. They'll move by themselves. And even if they move just a little bit, we'll be in a good spot. I see that someone gets 2 of the Beezookas, so I stun one of the Bee Wranglers just to make sure they don't get double hit there. And then Beeswax comes in, we'll move out just a touch, and then we'll try and move back in and stack right on top of these Bee Wranglers and make sure that we're getting some good cleave there. As you can see, we are higher on count than we need to be at this point, but that is a-okay, because we have plenty of time on the clock as long as we don't make any more like mistakes or anything like that. We haven't even died since the first pull, so that is a good place to be. So as usual, we're going to jump over this little railing right here and get on over into this main area. We're going to pop Toll, pop Trinket, and just get everything stacked up on top of this Bee Wrangler. Do some big dam, and nothing else to really worry about this pull. As usual, we're just going to be ready for that Swarming Surprise, unavoidable AoE damage. Kick the Bee Wrangler whenever possible, making sure to, you can stun the Bee Wrangler as well, kick the Purveyor, and these pulls should go down pretty quickly. As you can see, not a whole lot of damage coming out of this pull at all when those two AoE things are not up. We do have 3 stacks of the Swarming Surprise as well, so this next one is going to hurt just a bit more. As you can see, that damage does stack up, and with other things going on, it can be pretty lethal, and on higher keys, definitely lethal. So don't necessarily do what I just did, but it ends up working out okay. Going into Bank Busby, this is not going to be my proudest tanking moment. I, for some reason, start him over on the back side over here. I don't know. I don't really like this position a whole lot, but we're going to try and get all these Cinder Bees on me, and I drop that pool in a bit of an awkward spot, and I'm like, okay, we need to readjust. So I start positioning myself over to the side of the room here, and Honey Marinade goes out, so I have 4 seconds to drop it. And then as it gets to 1 second or so, I'll make sure to step over towards the wall, drop the pool in a place that no one needs to worry about it, and then take a couple steps back to get to more of the center of the room so that I am both closer to the spawning Cinder Bees, so I can get threat on those easier, and then they are also not going to die in this honey. Because if they touch the honey, they get enraged, and I believe you cannot send the Cinder Bees through the honey when you use their like charge ability to destroy the barrels. So make sure that the Cinder Bees don't die in or touch the honey while they're living. So again, we'll just keep stepping over to the side here, dropping the pools, and then dragging Bank back into the center of the room. There's probably better ways to tank this as well, where you're lining it up so that your DPS only have to send 2 bees through the barrels instead of 1, but that is okay. Pop Horse, drop the puddle on the side of the room, run back towards these Cinder Bees, and it is just going to be kind of rinse and repeat from there. So I'm just going to skip ahead. This boss is goes pretty much as intended. I mark all of these yes men as well. There is a mind control tech that you can do on Priest if you want to make that happen, but we don't have a Priest, so we're just going to do this the old-fashioned way. Absolutely blast into these yes men, and then we'll have just about 7 minutes or so, I think, to do Goldie Baron bottom here. But yeah, these yes men, just focus on one at a time. You can't, I mean, you can get AoE, you can pad, absolutely pad, but but you can't do these any faster if you don't single target. So try and be a little bit ethical in this situation. And I believe the way that you do the priest mind control tech is that you get so there's 4 alive, you'll get all of them low, you'll mind control 1, kill another one, and then you'll kill the other 2, and then unmind control, and you should be able to just finish off the last one. They only buff like the nearby things, so the reason if they're unfriendly, they won't get the buff, and then you can just keep that guy's health low and save a little bit of time. But if you don't have a priest, it's fine to do it the old-fashioned way. I don't know why I pop horse there. Don't you worry about it. And this boss, I do see people get in a lot of trouble or do this in almost like a rushed fashion, is the best way to describe it. So when I'm tanking this boss, I try to not do it in that way. You'll kind of see, I don't think this is the best way that I've ever tanked this boss, but we'll finish off this concursor and we'll get into what I mean. So right off the rip, we are going to Lust. We're going to type a little smiley face to know that we are a happy camper. And she will jump down. Usually I would position my back against this table. I kind of just forget about it, but I like to send the first tank buster, the first cash cannon to the back of the room over here because no one is going to be over there, and then drag the boss over to this side over here so that any of the things that I hit in the back of the room don't send waves towards the direction that I want to go in. I see people are going to break these barrels here, so I try and drag the boss to a position where they're not immediately going to get hit by the waves, and then back over here so they don't get hit by any of those existing waves. My DPS are positioning the burning ricochets to the point where they're going to get a lot of the barrels for me. So I'm okay sending this cash cannon over to the side over here, just making sure that I'm trying to drag the boss into a position where she can actually be hit. And I don't need to break any of the other things on the other side of the room. Those will break by themselves and we will be okay. So I sack the evoker, I spell warding the druid here, and we'll just dodge some puddles. Not even too much raid damage going out here. We'll just sit on the boss and easy clap, easy first phase. So this time I remember to put my back against the table. We'll get the first cash cannon towards the back of the room. You also want to be really consistent with these if you can, especially in pug groups, making sure that you are hitting the same ones in the same order. It just helps televise what you're going to do next. People have a general idea of what you're going to do next as well. So I see that the DK is going here. I don't want to spin the boss. I wanted to move further forward there, but I don't want to spin the boss and snipe somebody with the cash cannon. So I opt to do that even though we lose a little bit of uptime. And again, cash cannon's going on me. Don't want to spin it and snipe the barrels across the room, so I just opt to send it towards the wall. We have enough things broken already, so we don't need to worry about breaking any more. I see a lot of tanks get in situations where they just want to break every single barrel with that cash cannon or get maximum value, but you really, really don't need to do that. Just dodge more puddles on this phase, and you should be fine. As you can see, we didn't take hardly any raid damage on that phase, and we are chilling. Making sure that there is a barrel behind me, positioning myself with my back to this table. We'll get knocked back into it and then move over to the side here so that any of those pools that we just blew up aren't going to be on top of the boss. My DPS are going over there, breaking all of those barrels on the right-hand side here. Don't want to spin this cash cannon, so I'm just going to take it, send it towards the back corner. The DPS are not going to have to dodge any barrels at all, and then I want to televise that I am trying to break these ones on the right-hand side. So, the barrels on the left-hand side of my screen are not going to worry about anybody here. I actually end up getting knocked in a bit of an odd situation here, but we're going to be able to dodge this pretty well and finish the key with about 3 minutes on the clock. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Leave a comment below. I appreciate your guys' feedback so far. Like the video if you liked it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.